Hey guys, this is Debbie live from Bali. How exciting. Today I'm going to talk to you guys about anger because a lot of the feedback that I'm getting, at least recently, has been that it's coming up for a lot of us. And I know I've spoken into it in the past as a bodyguard emotion that's showing up to protect vulnerable emotions. In this case, let's start looking at anger as an alarm system. And by that I mean, for many of us growing up, boundaries were non-existent. We come from a context and a family background where there was no real healthy reference for what interdependence looks like. So by that I mean that the only codependent relationship that's a healthy one is between a child and a parent, meaning a child gets to learn how to do this. A child is dependent on the parent for food, shelter, care, without having to pay rent, without having to contribute. The caregiver becomes responsible for child. That said, for a lot of us, what it actually looked like was this. So parents becoming dependent on the child for their emotional needs. The child becoming like a surrogate partner, a surrogate wife. So returning to wholeness looks like beginning to understand boundaries, and interdependence is this. I'll lean on you and you can lean on me. Anger becomes a valuable emotion and an alarm system for where a boundary is needed. So start to notice when your anger flares up in relationship, because it'll signal one of two things. One, hey, you've never had a boundary here and we need one. For example, you might have a partner or friendship or just a relationship who might have a sense of humor that tags you and triggers you because it feels belittling or it feels annoying or frustrating. And instead of communicating that, you don't. And so the anger begins to pile on until suddenly one day this poor person, totally oblivious to your anger, makes a joke and you explode. The anger is signaling in that moment, hey, you need a boundary here, which is to communicate, I don't appreciate being spoken to that way. Another example could be you have a partner who just throws his clothes on the floor, or she throws her clothes on the floor, and it triggers you. And so then you get angry one day when you get home and you see clothes on the floor because the clothes is the trigger. And in that moment, now you're yelling, you're seeing red, and it doesn't need to get to that level of explosion. That's an alarm signaling, hey, a boundary is, can you be considerate of cleaning the clothes or putting it in the hamper or whatever it is. These are really, really, really basic examples, but it's an invitation for you to start to notice where your anger comes up and where the rage comes up, because it may actually be an invitation for you to start creating the boundaries. Another reason why anger might be coming up is also because, again, back to the concept of it as a bodyguard emotion, it could also be coming up because it's trying to protect a vulnerable emotion from the past. So if in the past sadness wasn't safe because your parents would say, hey, if you're crying, I'm going to give you a reason to cry, so stop crying, sadness became anchored to unsafe. So now as an adult, because that's the subconscious belief anchored to that specific emotion, anger comes up trying to protect that vulnerable emotion. So in those moments, what I would invite you to do is to be really conscious of it and start noticing what emotions are beneath the anger, and start to notice if it's emotions that in the past felt unsafe. And if that's the case, then see it as an invitation to deepen your relationship with you and to self-soothe in those moments. Hey, I know that in the past sadness wasn't safe, and in 2020 I've got you. We are safe in sadness. We don't need the anger. And make sure to clear up that with yourself, and to really check in with yourself before you start conversation with whoever is triggering the anger, because it's probably not going to be effective to try and have a conversation when you're in anger. So that might be a moment of stepping away and checking in with yourself first before engaging the conversation. So again, anger can be an alarm system that's showing you where a boundary is now needed and where it's a healthy new coping mechanism, or it can be signaling where you're actually in response to vulnerable emotions that in the past were unsafe. So again, anger is really an opportunity for you to look and deepen intimacy with yourself. And by intimacy, I mean intimacy. Look within and cultivate unconditional love. Like, if you get angry, that's not a reason for you to withhold love from yourself. It isn't. It's actually a very sacred emotion that's teaching you and that's guiding you, and you're learning how to work with it instead of letting it run you. I hope that supports. As I always say, we rise together, so your feedback is welcome. If you have questions around this, drop a comment and I will respond. Anyways, we rise together, guys. So much love. Bye.